know someone who's about to intern at a biotech company. This is a rising sophomore in college studying environmental science. And I asked him, what's your biggest concern about your biotech internship? And he said, well, I'm not an expert on biotech. And I'm thinking, of course you're not. You're a rising sophomore in college, right? And they know that, and they're not expecting you to be an expert. But there you are as a student.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Robert Khoury. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. Please help me welcome Robert with Building a Successful Intern Foundation.
This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I'm Rob Khoury. I run a company called Agile Rainmakers, which is a business development advisory and consulting firm. I've been running it for 6 years. And as I've been doing that, I've had a passion for developing interns and internships. And I've written 2 books about it, and I'm very excited about the difference that I've been able to make with the interns and the interns making a difference with me, because it is a two-way street. I've always had a passion for making a difference for others, and I've had numerous leadership opportunities throughout my life, going back to high school when I was the captain of a couple of sports, to college. I was a leader in a social club in my college, and then being a founder or founding investor in 3 different companies. So always passionate about making a difference and passionate about being a leader.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about your book. What inspired you to begin this journey and write this book, and why?
How to Intern Successfully, Insights and Actions to Optimize Your Experience. I've hosted 25 interns in the last 5 years. And as I've done that, I've seen what they share about regarding the internship I provide, what their friends tell them about the internships they have, or what other internships they've done. Yeah. And I noticed that dignity was missing. Decided, you know what, I'm going to be the one who puts dignity into the internship discourse. And, it's stuff like, students never hear back from companies when they apply to or when they interview with a company. They never hear back with a yes or a no. When they intern, students show up and they get no work all day, and then at 5 o'clock, they're given a project to get done by the morning. Wow. Or while they're interning, they get no feedback for weeks. And, they don't have clearly defined projects, or no one's prepared for them. So I noticed a lot of these basics are missing, and it doesn't take much. Like if I'm going to meet you, Cedric, I want to know, ahead of time, a little bit about you, be ready for you, plan, prepare. It's basics, right? And too often we're not doing that with interns. Companies aren't, and that's got no dignity in it. And so that's one piece of it. Just kind of how we manage and host interns in a lot of ways lacks dignity. It's not to say everyone's like that. There are companies that really get it and they plan, and they're amazing, absolutely amazing. But so many are like, oh, I've got an intern starting on Monday. Really? Oh, what are they going to work on? I don't know yet. Well. You've known they're coming for months. What are you doing? So that's one piece of it. But the other piece that lacks dignity is the students for themselves. They stress out over things like being perfect or being part of a long interview, and I got to get the job. They put pressure on themselves. Or one of my favorite things is they hide something about themselves that they aren't. But they mistakenly think everyone thinks that that's what they are looking for. So, for example, I know someone who is about to intern at a biotech company. This is a rising sophomore in college studying environmental science. And I asked him, what's your biggest concern about your biotech internship? And he said, well, I'm not an expert on biotech. And I'm thinking, of course you're not. rising
Man,
sun in
man,
college,
yeah,
right? And they know that, and they're not expecting you to be an expert. But there you are as a student, soon to be intern, stressed out over something that you're not, that you think people are expecting you to be. And so if I
man.
didn't have that conversation with him before that his internship started, he'd be spending the whole summer thinking everyone is expecting him to be an expert.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that, including, just no dignity for these students when they have to just sit there stressed out about the uncertainty of their future,
Yeah.
things like that. So that book, How to Intern Successfully, it shares personal experiences from my career, which has lots of successes and lots of failures. It's a roller coaster like everybody else's.
Yeah.
And in this way, interns can see the humanity in the job search and the early days of their career. And the book has quotes from interns who share their perspective. We're assisting the interns in seeing the bigger picture.
Mhm.
And with that are quotes from extraordinary leaders in history, ranging from business leaders like Steve Jobs to professional athletes like Martina Navratilova, and everything from world-renowned philosophers, judges, and scientists. And the book also has like these breathing exercises that elicit reflection, peace of mind, and confidence. And I say that with reading that book, an intern starts to have some dignity for themselves. They get to get out of their own way and then learn to intern successfully.
Robert, let's talk about the company, for example, because you talked about the preparation. So, what should the preparation look like? And also, I was listening to you. I was like, man, I think maybe the company, the HR department, whoever that's taking on this intern, this individual, it seems like they should, first of all, ensure that individual that we're not expecting you to be an expert to have all the answers and things like that. So that's one of the things I'm thinking of. What are some other things that maybe the company needs to prepare for when they're getting ready to receive an intern?
Well, there are a couple of things I think that are really helpful
Hmm.
when you want to get the most out of the students
Yeah.
when you post an internship. Okay, so one thing that's really important, once you extend that offer and they accept that offer, schedule a 30-minute conversation with that student every 6 to 8 weeks leading up to the internship.
Mm.
That way you can get to know the student, what they're interested in, how they're doing, and start building the relationship so that when they show up on day one, they're not as nervous and they're not as stressed. And also, you get the chance to calibrate that project work because you get a sense for their interests. Maybe they lean a little more computer science,
Yeah.
or maybe they lean a little more artsy or a little more people oriented.
Yeah.
And so the project's the project, but there are ways you can make adjustments that lean towards their strengths and interests.
Mm.
So that's like one of the biggest things in preparing for them is to spend that 30 minutes every 6 to 8 weeks. It might end up being a total of an hour, maybe 90 minutes total, maybe. But you'll develop a bit of a relationship. You'll get to know them. They get to know you. They start to learn the lingo. Maybe you start sharing articles to read, books to read before they show up. It really helps them ease into it. And I think that's probably my best advice before day one. Um, as a company before day one, you got to be making sure that um, they're going to have access to data that they need, access to people that they need. Got to make sure folks on the team are excited to host an intern. That means being aligned on why you're having an intern come and what you plan to get out of it, and also what you plan to give. So
Mm.
these are things to talk about ahead of time before they even start. Once they start, I recommend right off the bat, you train them extensively,
Mm.
which means you talk about the history of your firm, let them know how the work that they'll be doing will fit in
Yeah.
to the organization, how it adds value. let them know some key aspects of your culture. Not everybody does the same thing the way you do, and it's often too easy when you've been doing it for so long to think that there's no other way of doing something. But your organization does things in a unique way. Well, that intern walks in and has no clue about any of that. You got to be explicit about it.
Yeah.
And so you got to share key aspects of your culture and also share your expectations. What I always recommend is creating a guidance document which outlines aspects of the mission, the vision, the culture, how you do stuff, what you're expected, what the projects are going to be, something that they can refer to as a resource throughout and update for themselves too if they see something missing or something, because that guidance document could be something for next year's interns too. So those are some of the things, Cedric, that I think will really make a big difference when you're hosting an intern, not just for the host company, but also for the intern themselves.
Yeah, it's really, really great information, because things that oftentimes a lot of these smaller organizations may not think about that. And so you just said a mouthful that really help us out in welcoming interns into our organizations.
Yeah, that's the welcome part. Once they're there, the thing I recommend, because they're dying for feedback, and they need the direction. I mean, you let an intern free for a week or two, you have no idea what they're going to come up with. So I'd rather once you start, you have a brief morning meeting and, get grounded on the mission and the vision. You discuss what got accomplished yesterday, what the plan is for today, and answer any questions they might have. Do that every day. It takes a few minutes, but it keeps things on track. They know you're monitoring them. They like that. They want to know. And then maybe every week you have a 15 to 20-minute conversation and ask them, in that time, like, how's it going? Are you reaching your goals? What can we do better or differently? Again, it's a 15, 20-minute investment of your time, makes a huge impact for them, but mostly it's signaling that you care. That's the other thing I would say. So personal ideas or stories. I was working on my computer, and I told the intern there, take a look at my computer, and he's like, "Huh, why are you using that browser? Why don't you do this? Wait, let me do this with your computer." I'm like, "Dude, do whatever you think will make it more effective, more efficient, faster, etc." And within 10 minutes, my computer was humming along. It's like,
Wow.
because he's like, "Oh, this is a better browser, and you should do this and that," and boom, and it was rolling. So that was one thing. The other thing was I was given this intern one project at a time. Like, here, do this, and then you get it done. Okay, here, do that, get it done. I had an insight because he gave me feedback later. He's like, "Rob, just give them all to me at once. I can handle it. But when you give me one project and then in series, the next one, well, there's downtime and stoppage, and then the time it takes to explain the next one and get the data and everything." And I thought about it, and I was like, wow, and I thought like an electrical engineer, which is my training. I thought, why am I doing it in series? I should do this in parallel. So I learned, that was the first year I had intern. I learned, okay, you know what? I'm just giving 5 projects right at the beginning, and I'm just going to trust that they don't know how to manage their time, multitask, bounce around from one to the other. If there's a natural, pause, waiting period, great. They go to the next thing. If they get tired or bored with it, okay, go to the other thing. So that's something that's, to me, a huge thing versus here's one project, and then when you get it done, here's the next one. It's trusting that they know how to manage their time, balance their priorities, and move forward, just like they do in college when they have 5 classes.
Yeah, that's awesome. How is the interaction within this time period? Let's say you mentioned 5 projects. So are you checking in on the 5 projects, or are you just handing it to them and say, let me know when all 5 is done? What is your interaction in this?
We're checking in regularly. So every day it's that morning meeting, going through what you get done and all that. I also will have an end of day meeting, but I do that end of day meeting at 3 in the afternoon.
Okay.
So that way they can after that brief meeting, they can like do a little sprint from like 3:15 till 5. I have a simple rule: you can't work before 9 or after 5.
Mm,
You got to get it all done now.
yeah.
And one of the things that happens is they don't end up surfing the web or texting because they don't have the time to. So and then I'm checking as they go. So let's see the progress and all that. There's a certain level of trust that they can go far enough. I don't have to micromanage and check every little thing along the way. Early on, I want to get feedback sooner, but then, once am confident they know what they're doing, okay, we can extend it, few days or weeks before I see the feedback. But I do want to hear, I see the results, but I do want to hear, daily what's getting accomplished, what they're working on, how it's going. And you can learn a lot just from hearing them describe their work and then, looking at it from time to time. I think it's, you can either have it scheduled, you can either have it by milestone, or you can either, wait till it's all complete. I prefer somewhere, during the work process to verify what they're doing is right on track. That's generally what I do.
Wow, Robert, that is really, really, really great insight, because I'm listening, and because sometimes you can give too much work or not enough work. It sounds like with that process, you can find that balance. And am I giving them too much so you can give them just enough? Because you mentioned searching the web, give them just enough where they don't have time to be twirling their thumbs, but actually getting things done. So,
Yeah, there's two pieces to it too. So first
okay.
off is you get what you inspect, not what
Mm,
you expect. Okay, so that's key. Right. The second thing is when you give them 5 projects, they're going to be busy. They're working, right? They got a lot to juggle and manage. Okay,
yeah.
so there isn't like kind of some of those might be a little harder than others, but they're working away, which is really important. Here's another important piece is to wrap up the internship, pause 3 weeks before and look at everything that's been done and what's left to get done. And have a
Mm,
conversation with them. Realistically, what can we get done here in the next 3 weeks? And then there may be stuff that they can't get done and say, okay, we're not going to do those. Let's focus on these. We don't want to have drama, all-nighters, stress, all of that. We want to finish powerfully. We want to finish with some great work. We want to make sure that for the intern, their experience with us was a win for them. It builds their confidence. They go back to school excited, thrilled. They're telling all their friends, their family, what a fabulous place you work at or they got to intern at. That's how you want them left. And it's not going to happen, by trying to land and, an Olympic uh, somersault on the last day of their internship. It's got to be planned over weeks and really like methodically go through what's going to get done, what's not going to get done, getting communication around all of that so everybody is okay, and then wrap it up nicely. We're going to land it very softly, gently, so that everyone feels empowered, fulfilled, excited, energized, and they got what they came for.
wow, wow, wow. Robert, I love this. I want you to kind of talk to the things you've studied and learned and improved in the internship programs. How have you been able to improve your employee onboarding by those intern program standards?
I typically do not hire full-time.
Okay.
So typically I don't. Once in a while I do, and I did recently.
Okay.
And what it is, it turns out, it's just really an extension of the internship. So
Mm,
the interned, and we wrap that up in a nice bow, and then we move forward in a similar vein as a full-time employee,
wow.
which is mission, vision, values every morning, getting a sense of what the work is, and sharing every day what got done, what's going to get done, what the plan is, so that we stay on course and we're as effective as possible, productive as possible.
Yeah.
So much can happen with communication. I mean, the things to avoid, You want to avoid having no plan. That'll kill you. You want to avoid not having access to data or people for vital information. These sorts of things. You want to avoid deviating from your structure or your plan. Stick to the plan. Stick to the course.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that we do, which I have found to be extremely valuable, is something called a premortem. A postmortem is we make a plan, we execute, and then after it's done, we look at, okay, why didn't it turn out? That's the postmortem. Oh, we could have done this, we should have done that. A premortem is we make a plan, and then we ask ourselves, okay, let's assume it failed. What are the most likely reasons why our plan failed? And we go, oh, well, those folks weren't committed, or we couldn't get that information, or this was too difficult. And then we say, okay, let's now look at what we can do to make sure that if it fails, it's not because of those reasons we just pointed out. And that's the value of a premortem. And what we'll do here is we do a premortem on the internship itself the first week. We'll say, okay, here you are, you're in your internship. All right, I want you to write down all the reasons why this internship failed. It didn't turn out. And they list them. And I'm like, great. Now write down next to it, what you're going to do about that, so it doesn't fail for that reason. And with them, these are college kids, because it could be like, well, I've got my college activity over the summer, and I'm the president, and they're going to ask me to do stuff. I've got stuff to do. And I'm like, okay, great. What are you going to do about it? And it'll be like, I'll let them know that I'm in my internship, and I'll get stuff done at night and over the weekends, but not during the day.
Wow.
Beautiful. So step by step with a premortem, the probability of success goes way up because you're reducing the probability of failure. You're planning ahead. And that's why I say, Cedric, like, this is all about dignity, right? Nothing I'm saying here is, rocket science. This is basics. Just plan ahead, think ahead, really like have the interns be front and center on your mind. Right? Well, if I were them, how could I make sure that this internship was awesome? The second book, Intern Management, Principles for Designing an Exceptional Internship, I lay out 9 principles. One of them is empathy. If you start with empathy, you're going to have a phenomenal internship for the intern and frankly for yourself too.
Yeah.
So those are some of the nuggets there. There's a heck of a lot more in those books though, Cedric, but I'm just giving you some of the highlights here.
What is that need to know that you may not have shared, that may have crossed your mind, and I may have not asked the right question? What is that thing that you say the Lead to Greatness audience need to know this? What would that be?
Well, if you're a manager hosting interns, the key thing you got to know this. Those students, those interns, first off, they like your industry. They're probably going to end up in your industry. Secondly, they're highly impressionable. They're going to remember their experience with you.
Wow.
Not the next year or two, but for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
They're going to be talking about you and your organization, hopefully in a favorable way. But that's something you got to know. So, leading with greatness is really important here, because they're going to talk, and they're going to talk to their friends, their family, future coworkers, you name it. And it's not just like a little bit. They're going to talk a lot because this is extremely impressionable. Most of us can't remember, instances or occurrences at work 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if we've been working a long time. But I bet you, Cedric, if I asked you about some work experience you had when you were 18
Absolutely.
or 19, you will describe it in
You're
detail.
right. You're right. Yes.
You'll know the day, the time, who, what, all of it, right?
I remember the start. Yes.
You got one, right? You're just off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That, you gotta know that.
Jeez.
And that means you gotta operate with a really high level of integrity and discipline. And you gotta lead with greatness. It's there. You've got to be great with them, with whatever you deal with. You are leaving a massive, massive impression. So that's if you're an intern manager. If you're a student who's interning, what you've got to know is that if you want to be great, you gotta have compassion for yourself. You've got to forgive yourself. You've got to let it go when you make mistakes, and you're going to make mistakes. Because if you don't make any mistakes, I guarantee you, you are not going to learn what there is to learn. I mean, to learn is to make mistakes.
Yeah.
With that is that compassion and forgiveness and grace. And that's where you will get to be great, is by giving yourself that. I always tell the college students, listen, you don't even have a fully developed brain yet. Like there are parts of your brain that haven't even grown in yet.
Absolutely.
Doesn't happen till you're 25.
Yeah.
So go easy on yourself. Do the work hard, work consciously, right? Think, right? And be good to yourself in that regard.
Robert, knowledge bomb. This is so good. You're really helping us.
I'm just personal experiences. I'll talk to someone and I'll say this, what we just talked about, and they'll be like a 40-year-old financial consultant. And they'll be like, yeah, I remember I spent my summer at, what X bank, and they just had me listening on the phones. They didn't give me anything to do. I felt like I wasted my time, and it'll be like, you know what? I hated it. I'll never go back there. And then what, are they going to open up an account? Are they going to do business with them? No. And that person is 40 now. It's like, it's like 20 years later. They still don't like it. So, Cedric, this is so important in terms of, leading to greatness, in my opinion, because communication is leadership. Everything's a communication. You're not treating that intern really well. That's a communication. It's called, I don't respect you. You treat them well, you listen, you get in their world. That's a communication. I care about you. We're in this together. We're standing shoulder to shoulder. And guess what? Years later, who knows? We both know business is a big game of musical chairs. And it could be I go and I start something, I hire them, or we end up somehow working side by side. Or who knows? Maybe I'm working for them because they're so brilliant and they started a business, but they need someone they know that's mature, seasoned, who can rally the troops really well. And they're like, hey, Cedric, we need you because I remember what it was like working under you, and I think you could be great mentoring all these young people we're hiring now. That can happen. And right, I just think it's just so important. But I do go back to dignity. That's why I'm writing these books. It's a 4-book series. So the first book was for the intern, help them get out of their own way. Second book's for the manager, help them answer the question, just what do I do with an intern? The third book will be out in about a year. That one's mentoring an intern. Right? What are the conversations to have and when? And how do you do it? It's not intuitive. It's not easy. You have to really listen for stuff and look for stuff. So that'll be the third book. And then the fourth book is one folks are always surprised by, but when I say what it is, they're like, oh my gosh. So the fourth book is about parenting an intern, because that intern is going to go home to their parents. They're going to spend 8 hours a day with their parents, plus weekends with their parents during your internship. And so what is a parent supposed to say or do? How does a parent bring dignity to the internship? So, right. And for me, if I have an intern working with me at the end of the internship, the intern gets a survey for their parents, and the parent fills out that survey. How was the internship for your child? What would you like to see done better or differently? Things like that. Because it's crucial. And what I say is, after that 4-book series is all done, then you've got the intern taken care of, the parent, the mentor, the manager. If everyone's on the same page with dignity, we're all going to win. And that's why I'm doing this.
Wow, knowledge. Wow. Robert, I love it. If someone wanted to connect with you and the work that you are doing, where should they go?
There are three main ways. You can just drop me an email, robert@agilerainmakers.com. And agilerainmakers.com is my company webpage. We have a newsletter, so you could do that. You could also just connect with me on LinkedIn, Robert J. Khoury on LinkedIn. And you can also connect with, we had an intern come in. He started an Instagram page, and it has 60,000 followers just in 6 months. And it's called Intern versus Manager, or an Intern VS Manager. And it's a lot of fun, interesting, both mentoring and humor and coaching around internships. We've got about 100 videos on there. And we'll publish more as we go. But those are three ways to stay connected, stay in touch.
On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much, Robert, for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.